Welcome to Kaks Bar and Podcast, Canada's first podcast bar. What that means is you can come here for food, you can come here for drinks, you can also come here and record a podcast. Come on down, we're located in downtown Calgary, Alberta in the Beltline area. See you soon. And we're rolling. I'm here today with Morgan Berna. Short version, Morgan Berna is a fashion and lifestyle video blogger, also a podcaster, and works in podcasts. All her information will be in the show notes there. You can check out her YouTube channel and everything like that. But Morgan, we met 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, or
yeah, I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I was just walking by. And someone waved at me at the bar.
Oh, actually?
So I jumped in, started talking to your fiance.
Okay. Jess?
Yeah. Or Nicole?
Oh, no. Nicole is Cass's wife. So Cass is my business partner.
Gotcha.
And then must have been him because I don't just wave at people. But it's funny that he said, actually, you just confirmed his point. Because he's like, hey, man, start waving at people as they walk near the door. And I was like...
It did work. We were actually coming here anyway.
Okay.
But I was kind of like, okay, that seems really... either really nice or really weird. Let's go see. And I was down for either.
Yeah.
So I chatted then with Nicole and told her I work in podcasting.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Okay, yeah. And then that's how it got directed to me. Okay. And then I just remember chatting with you real briefly, and then we set this up. And we're going in blind, really. We're just getting to know each other right here. But she does podcasts, I do podcasts, so we kind of know the ups and downs and the struggles, if you will. But for a second there, right before we were talking about Riverside, like, is that the software you were using? And
so I'm using Riverside now. When I started in podcasting, we were doing it like just all in person, like recording into GarageBand or something, which sometimes I still do. But then with the pandemic, everything went remote, and I started having to record guests on like Skype.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the last time you opened Skype, but it's a nightmare.
Oh, sorry. I confused Skype with Zoom. I used Skype like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. This was probably about 5 years ago. Uh-huh. And it would like fully just lose the recordings. I would interview someone. We do like an hour and then
that's my biggest nightmare.
Gone. Recording gone. So that became a nightmare. So then I started using Squadcast. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's kind of similar, but just a little worse. And so I was using that, and it was like audio was all there, but then the video would get lost, or it would lag, or you'd have video of different people and one person's would like stop early and it would glitch out.
That must be frustrating.
So frustrating. Yeah. So then I started using Riverside with clients, and it's been really good. Also has its quirks, but mostly good. Yeah,
my buddy turned me on to Riverside about a year ago, and I just didn't take time to learn any other software. So that's actually why I'm using
I think you're
Riverside. But I don't know, like, I like it, but there is, like, I've had to call the text before because of just slight weird shit would happen, like the slightest tinge of it not syncing with the third camera and fourth camera. Yeah.
See, I've only done it on like kind of like Zoom cameras.
Oh, okay.
So I've never done it with multiple cameras.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
so I mean, I'll preface, there's a reason why what people always wonder with our podcast, they're like, why is one with a webcam and the other one's with an iPhone? I was like, okay, like, there's actually a reason behind that. It's because
there's always a method to
there's a bit of this odd slightly not synced up syncing situation here, but it's so subtle, but it's enough for me to be like, you know what, I'd rather the sound be good and I mean, I'd rather the video line up, and you can just deal with one camera being like a webcam. It's still 1080p and the other one's 1080p just in its own way. But but I like Riverside. It does catch some flack too. I don't know. It's like when you Google it now, there's some massive love-hate with it. Yeah,
I got to look it up. We recently tried. So I work at a marketing agency. I do that for like my 9 to 5, and then I also do podcast production on the side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at that job, they were trying to add a user to their Riverside account, and you can't. Like, you can't add another person. So we just share a login, which is fine. But we were looking into it, and like the next tier that you pay is either like the whatever it is a month, like 30, 40 bucks a month.
I'm on the super program. I just pay whatever it is. I forgot what I.
But it's like really affordable. I feel like the next tier is $445 a month.
A month? Wait, is that? No, I'm not paying that a month.
No, you're not.
No.
No, for like a single user, I think it's like $40 or something.
Yeah, it's like maybe.
Maybe
I forget what I pay. I just do it once a year. It's like $300 for the whole year or some shit. But like I use it so much that $400 a month. What does that get you?
So you get like different studios. It'd be really cool if you were doing like all kinds of shows and they were recording at the same time. Because with Riverside, you can kind of only be in your studio like one account at a time or like one recording at a time.
Yeah, without massive lag and issues. Yeah.
So with that one, you can actually have like multiple. There were some other settings, but we were kind of like just politely nodding through the sales call, being like, no.
Yeah, okay, like as in almost overkill with the features, if you will, or
it will like make sense if you were like Netflix, you know, or if you get like a bunch of clients or something, it might make sense. But
yeah. But like podcasting is, I mean, look, I love Joe Rogan and to me that's the standard, but I see a lot of like Chris Williamson has this one called Modern Wisdom and he does it now almost like a movie style production. But to me, I personally don't need all that. Like as a consumer of it, I'm like, half the time I'm listening to it while I'm working out or something. And I'm only tuning in a video just because I want to see the person for a moment. I don't need it to be like
a visual, just like at the scene.
Yeah, well, to me, it's just a conversation. So why do you have to make it a super, like super production, if you will, for that, right? Mm-hmm. That's just my take on it. That's why we set this thing up pretty basic and user friendly. You know, we're not trying to scare people away. We want them to like get into an argument and be like, let's podcast about this, and they jump right into the booth and it's all set up, bang bang bang, right?
That's so fun. I do think that's what a lot of people get wrong with podcasting. They really focus on like you're coming into it from different camps, right? Like some people are coming into it as audio engineers and so they like want it to be perfect, right? And some people are coming into it as like videographers and they want it to be perfect. I came into it as just like someone who couldn't shut up and was like, look, I just have a lot of thoughts. And so for me, what I've always thought is like, it's really the content that matters. It's the story. It's like actually liking people and being interested in what they have to say.
Yeah.
The quality is a bonus because like, even now, when podcasting's been popping off for years, the top shows I listen to are like so poorly made. They're like just like strewn together. And
which ones? Like
there's one I listen to, and it's actually like I think it's a big show now. It's called Girls Next Level. Did you used to watch Girls Next Door, like Playboy Mansion, Hefner's Girlfriends?
That kind of rings a bell, and that sounds like that's something I should have been watching, but no, for some reason.
It was a reality show, but it was really like, I feel like it was more geared towards girls a little bit, the way it was done, even though it was like about Playboy and stuff. But they're now doing a show to the girls that were girlfriends, just about like their experience and what it was like.
And as a podcast.
Well, as a podcast now, but they did a reality show, so they're breaking it down like episode by episode. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, like the content's amazing. The girls are so cool. But it's not like a big budget production, and they kind of did that purposefully because they were like, we're the only ones who trust ourselves to like listen back and edit this properly and like make sure the things we don't want to say aren't in there.
True.
And I was like,
okay, well, I mean, I completely agree with them, but for me, it's not that I don't trust someone else editing. I'm like, this is all that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be paying someone that I can just do this part myself. It's not that vigorous on my skills, if you will.
I get it.
Yeah. No. And actually, to piggyback off what you were saying, I listened to some of like even like Sam Harris and like Brett Weinstein and like these guys that were they got their run getting noticed from being on Joe Rogan's podcast, but these are all neuroscientists and like super intelligent academics, but like their podcast is like not exactly great production, because I came to realize just because you're super smart at neuroscience doesn't mean you're going to be super smart at this stuff. And but like I still enjoyed their podcast just as much as, example, Chris Williamson, who has to make it into a movie, you know. And
sometimes actually, like when a show's production suddenly gets really high, I almost like don't want to listen to it anymore, because it feels like, who's in your pocket now? Like, why
you
is
sold
this?
out, man? Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. I feel like when I started listening to podcasts, this was probably like around 2010.
Yeah.
I want to say. And it was really unhinged. Like what people were posting was like wild.
Morgan, you're right up my alley. Joe Rogan, when he first was podcasting, I don't know if you like Joe or not. It's a hot button topic for a lot of people, but I love Joe. You know, and
I feel like I'm like up and down depending on the topic.
Okay,
but yeah, I can totally respect.
Yeah. I don't have to dive into all the politics stuff. I'm just saying he's my inspiration. I do have a lot of similarities to him, but at the same time, doesn't mean we can't be friends here.
Oh, and he's like top of the game. So
yeah, he's top of the game. But when in 2009, I remember I just was on YouTube, and all of a sudden I see, hey, now streaming live. So I clicked on it. I remember underneath it said 1,000 like viewers. I was one of the original 1,000 watching his. It was either his first or second podcast. It was just him in his like one of his rooms in his house with Ari Shaffir and Brian Redband, and it was one angle talking into a webcam, but they're sitting all three side by side smoking a joint. And you're right. Back then, the internet was like even more raw and it was so honest. And I just remember being like, wow, I'm getting a glimpse into the Fear Factor guy's life and the MMA guy's life. Cause like I love MMA and Fear Factor. And then next thing you know, what really got the ball rolling was they got Pat McAfee on the show, right? No, not Pat McAfee. That's the football player. Remember the McAfee? He's the guy who made the virus scanning program, McAfee.
Oh my god!
And then he ended up being on the run because of numerous, apparently he was a rich guy. He made the software McAfee.
Yeah.
But he apparently he had like a sex island with a bunch of women, not Jeffrey Epstein style. Like these were of age women, but it's a place where he would just like do meth and like experiment with like creating the perfect meth. And he would just be on this island, like just in a state of pure hedonism.
Yeah.
And apparently what he was doing was at the time like categorized as some kind of human trafficking or whatever. And he was on the run. He was left the U.S. but somehow. I need to
look this up because I had no idea.
Oh yeah. The guy who made do you even know McAfee? Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So then Rogan had him on a Skype call. Live on his podcast
while he was like on the run.
Yeah, and then I remember just hearing this crazy conversation. Like McAfee's nuts; he's out of his fucking mind, and he was just going into detail about how he makes his meth and like how he has like all these women around. Specifically, he's into like Asian women, so he has all these like Asian women. And then Rogan even asked him like on that pod, like, "Aren't you? This is human trafficking." He's like, "No, it's not. It's like I'm just making an island for people who want to like experience pure pleasure." And then I just remember watching this podcast and being like, "Is this a real conversation? Like, why am I hearing this
right now?"
You know?" And then I just remember being like, "Holy shit, this is podcast world!" And then it just started popping off with other minute people doing podcasts again, just sharing things that would not have otherwise found its way to the public audience. And then but now it's ruined because it used to be so authentic.
I kind of feel like it started out really unhinged.
Yeah.
And that was also like before cancel culture, before people really saw any like repercussions online. Like honestly, I feel like the expectation wasn't that it would blow up. Most people were posting to like SoundCloud and stuff and getting like a few thousand listens. And it was such niche listens. Like the internet was so niche. Like you had to know where to go, you know? And then it got really like PG. I feel like over the last like kind of decade, it's kind of like gotten more. And that's really when I started working with a lot of businesses, and it became a lot more about like, how can you like bring people into your content funnel and like make a lot of like really beautiful content with it and make it really polished. And now I kind of feel like we're going back to the unhinged, but like an educated unhinged.
Yeah, the whole thing absolutely evolves and then changes and shifts.
Yeah.
But I want it unhinged. I want it honest. Like I want to be able to hear, as an example, I'm into fitness and training, and despite having all these beers in front of me, but there was a guy, Tony Huge. Do you know who he is?
Mm-mm.
Man, like him and well, he's dead now, but there's Rich Piana and Boston Lloyd. They were in around the 2015-16 area. And their podcast and internet content was just like unhinged and raw and honest. They were literally shooting steroids on, and I just remember being like, again, like where would I have seen this? And I can't believe these people are filming it, and it's honest, and again, it's now it's gone.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we were just cracking the surface of really getting everyone to like know more shit, like for and now it's like now we're back to, as you said, PG. But now it's kind of shifting. I don't know. I
think it's shifting because are you on TikTok?
Yeah, we're on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can find anything on there. You can learn anything. You can get diagnosed with anything. Mm-hmm. You can cook anything.
There's a lot of fake stuff too, though, on TikTok as well.
For sure. Yeah. Of course you need to like approach with like education, but there's just, I feel like, so much information available to people now that what they kind of want now is personalities again.
Mm-hmm.
They want like connection, community. People are lonely.
Yeah.
I feel like all the shows I'm working on are kind of shifting back to being more, how can we be more candid? Like, how can we like connect better? Or how can we talk more about like emotion, and like things that are real versus like you come home from the workday, you open up your podcast app and it's just telling you how you could have done your day better at work.
Yeah, that's boring. Hard. That's boring, man. And I agree with you totally, but like I'm not saying I just want to listen to stuff just for controversy, just because it's entertaining.
No, it doesn't need
sometimes
to necessarily be controversy. Yeah,
but like I want authentic, as you said, and half the time, I don't know, when the camera's not around, I see a lot of unhinged stuff, So it's like, why are we pretending like we're not like that? But
yeah,
at the same time, I don't know. It's also like you don't want everyone to start behaving super unhinged either, because then you're gonna get a reckless society.
That's what I'm saying, like an educated unhinged, where it's like, look, we know there's boundaries to content, but also like you can show your personality. Like you don't need to be so polished.
Mm-hmm.
And if like, I don't know, if you're kind of boring, you can kind of be boring. If you're really silly, like be silly. Like there isn't really one thing that I feel like hits right now.
Mm-hmm.
People just like to feel like they're even going kind of on a journey with you, like getting to know you, hearing little bits and pieces about your life. I mean, that's what I like about YouTube too, is it's very just real and kind of boring, but in a way that makes it feel like you have company, you learn something. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch vlogs at all, but
I watch some vlogs. There's lots of athletes that do like video MMA vlogs and things like that. I do like that stuff, and because like one of my favorite books to read are biographies. Mm-hmm. I like real people, but although I also do like movies and fiction and everything like that. But I don't know. Right now, I mean, we're both doing what we're doing, but I do get a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm like, I cannot fold and bend the knee and then just start doing fake content. Like,
totally,
I have to just be myself. If the views aren't there, I trust. I'm betting on myself here. With time, I know the right people who are my like-minded homies will find the podcast and then go down a rabbit hole and watch all of them, and then find their way here and like join me and stuff. But because part of why I'm doing this is because I do love it. I want to just talk, and express myself without having some kind of like rules. That's also why me and my business partner opened our own bar. We're tired of like, because we're getting to a point where even when you work at bars, you couldn't be yourself, Is
that what you were doing before? Were you working at bars?
No, okay, so short version is bars have always been the backbone of my job world, if you will. Like since I was 18, I've been working in bars, bartending, bouncing, like being a bar assistant to being the full-on bartender, being a server. I had loads of other side jobs, but I do have a degree at University of Calgary called Communication Culture, with a minor in sociology, which majored in unemployment. Okay. Didn't do anything with that. But then after I went to SAIT and got my surface land admin, and then I was in oil and gas for 6 years. I was in oil and gas, and I had a nice office and was making that oil and gas money and everything. But I was like, this isn't me. I hate this. I did this just because it was almost all my family was in the same route and they have good lives, and I just was copying them to obtain some level of security. But in the back of my mind, I always knew I want to do a podcast. I want to not be like Joe Rogan. I want to just live his lifestyle in my own way. I want to do cool things. I want to talk to people. I'm a chatty guy. And then I just realized like I need to at least get back into the bars first, because the bars allowed me to like chat and meet people.
Totally.
And I quit Energy like 7 years ago now. So in 2016, I think. And then I just, I just quit and then started subconsciously pursuing this. And we were going to pull the trigger and form this before COVID, but then COVID happened. So the whole goal was pushed back 3 years. Yeah. Well, we had to. We're going to try to open a bar in COVID. That would have been like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah. That's cool though. I think it's really cool that you did it. And I actually also like worked a lot in service and was always someone who's just super chatty. I also took communications, but mine was just called communications. I went to school in Vancouver, but I also did neuroscience as well.
Okay.
Because I was like, I just am interested in people, and I'm interested in like how they behave and communicate and how we all do that. But then I'm also interested in like why our brains are like making us do that. So I feel like those two really work together, and I always thought I'd end up in broadcasting, but it was such a rigid kind of field. And even like trying to get into school, it was like they wanted me to be reading all these newspapers and know exactly what was happening, and I was like, that's not really like what I'm about. Like I want to do something that's more creative and interesting. So anyway, I ended up in marketing, but I pretty quickly started like getting into the podcast space just anywhere I could. And now it's cool to get to do that most of my job.
What is, sorry, I just need some memory fresher here. I know we talked about this before, but so what, like in the podcast space, like are you on shows podcasting and or were you also like producing it? Like
I do a mix. Yeah. So I have one show right now that I co-host on. I got started in the space. So I was working at a marketing company and I started my own show. No longer online.
What's it called?
At the time, it was called Communication Station.
Okay.
It's not online anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I just wanted to kind of like get myself used to speaking again. I used to, at that time, I was working marketing and I was running this music blog, but it was starting to wind down because when I lived in Vancouver, I could interview so many musicians, go to shows. I had all kinds of writers. It was really fun. But then I moved to the Okanagan to get a first like big girl kind of job. Sort of same thing, kind of sold my soul for a minute. And ended up shutting that down. So anyway, so I started the podcast as like another outlet. And then one night, I think I was actually really high. Are we okay to say that?
Yeah.
And I saw this job posting for a company that's actually across the street from us.
Okay.
Right now it's like Kitty Corner.
In that Bell building?
Like the one at the corner.
Okay, yeah. And was it the podcast lab or whatever?
No, it was a finance company.
Oh, okay.
And they were looking for a podcast host, and I was like, so bizarre. And I sent them this message being like, you have to hire me. So anyway, I did get that job. I worked there for like a year and a half full time as a host. So I would host, edit, but I like also do production. We had guests.
Was these shows all on YouTube, by the way? Like, can we find
They're
them
up
now?
still. Yeah. Okay, it's actually really cool. It was all for like small businesses, but it's like really businessy topics. So it's more like accounting help, like how to run a business, like that kind of stuff. So it's pretty business to business.
So they had you hosting it, but you're not an accountant. Like, so
I was interviewing people. So I was just interviewing.
Okay.
So that was really fun. And then after that job, I left and I ended up actually like working with a bunch of people I'd met.
Sorry, real quick. What was that show called again? I kind of
That was called the Small Business Mastermind.
Small Business Mastermind. Okay.
You can look it up and hear me being like, "Welcome to the Small Business Mastermind." It's very like cute.
Wait, was it video as well, or just audio only, or
just audio? There's videos, but they're just like a stock graphic. You know, it's not like they're on YouTube. But that was really cool. That was such a cool job because the company was at the point where they'd done so well with all their content marketing that they were ready to kind of take a risk. And my boss there was actually, he'd be like, I want you to be like Joe Rogan. And I was like, I'm interviewing accountants. Like, how do I do this? But it was just really good to like flex the muscle and learn. And then when I left that company, I ended up getting into some freelancing. So now I do a mix of things. So after that, like some people brought me on to do production. Some people brought me on for editing, which is probably like the thing I'm the worst at, but I'm still getting through.
Use Adobe Premiere Pro or?
Nope. I'm in GarageBand fighting for my life half the time. And then some brought me on for like hosting production and stuff too. So now I currently co-host on one show regularly. So that one's weekly, and it's actually an emotional intelligence podcast.
Ooh, okay.
It's really quite
What's
cool.
it called again?
It's called Leaderhood and Parentship.
Is this also video or just audio only?
That one's just audio.
Okay. Are they all just audio only or?
No, I work on some where we do video, but those ones I'm not like a host on.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one I co-host on, and it's really cool because even though it's kind of for leaders and parents, it's great for anybody who basically just wants to like grow their emotional intelligence because it's
everyone
like a muscle.
needs to fucking do that.
Seriously, it's been like therapy.
Is it Spotify, Apple? If I was trying to look this up,
it's on everything.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm only on Spotify, Apple. That's all I'm on for audio.
I'll show you.
Yeah,
There's lots.
I should probably throw them on more here.
No worries. Those are the biggest ones. And then I also work
in video for YouTube.
Hey, you too. And then I also work at a marketing agency in town. It's called Arcade. And they're really
I saw
fun.
they're popping up on my feed.
Yeah,
okay.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
And so I do production for their podcasts.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
also like if we bring on any clients or when we have had clients.
So you're the one who makes the videos then?
Well, I produce. Now we have an editor who's editing those for me and for the team.
So producing always has like a wide range because like I could say like I also produce the show here. But so what tasks like for that Arcade pod, like are you behind the desk filming, hitting record, and then
So we have 2 shows there right now. One of them's like a weekly live show for that one I'm just like sourcing content, organizing our guests, like making sure that it's just like done. For the other one, there's a bit more to it, and it's almost more of like a strategy role at this point. I used to edit it and do kind of all the behind the scenes, and now I'm doing more like what's our content strategy, who do we want to have on, how do we want to shape the episodes. And then I work with an editor on like what's our video concept going to be, and he executes on all of that. And so that one's really fun because that one out of all of them is like the biggest production quality, and we have the most going on with that one. So I feel like it just like looks really crisp.
We should collab. Sorry.
They're super fun. That one's really cool. They're actually like in the middle of potentially shifting the style a little bit, and I can't really say too much right now, but it's gonna be really fun. So
man, I'm not gonna lie, Morgan, I didn't know there's all this podcasting work. Like I really didn't. Like when I started doing this, I just did it because I wanted to, and I already thought there was a bar that already had a podcast studio in it. Like to me, I actually didn't know we were like the first podcast bar in Canada and North America. Actually, the more I'm doing my research, like because there's none in LA. Like they don't have there's people podcasting out of bars, but not a podcast studio in a bar where you can also rent it out. Like, and when I found out, like Kaks Bar and Podcast, like me and my partner, like we're, like this we're the first. I was pretty, like sitting here like fuck yeah, kudos to us.
I walked by and I was like, my idea, because I thought about it for a while. I was like, someone should really open up like a bar or something that has a podcast studio. So I'm so happy you did it.
Thank you, but at the same time, like that's what I mean. You were thinking of it, I was thinking of it. I literally thought it was done already. I was like, I'm just going to do this as well. I'm like, just 30,000 pizza restaurants.
I would have thought somewhere else, maybe not in Calgary, but like somewhere else.
I honestly thought it was done. Like I even in Calgary, I'm just that naive in my thought process. And then as I was forming it up, and then it was like and incorporated the business and everything, and then the government person I was talking to was like, okay, are you a bar or a podcast business? I was like, one business. He's like, oh, there's no category for that, so I guess you're the first. And then but still, like they put us under hospitality and food and entertainment or whatever. But it's been pretty sweet. And but again, I didn't realize there was all this other avenues to do podcasting as a career. I always thought podcasting was something more of a passion project for everyone doing it. And then if you just so happen to hit the algorithm and start to be able to monetize your channel, then that's the way I thought. I didn't realize it was like like just all this going on.
And I don't know like how much it is, but I'm like out here fighting for my life to like make it work because it's just, I've seen it really work, especially for businesses. For businesses, the one that I hosted on that was like for small businesses, for them, like their main goal was like, if we can get people to our blog, we've basically captured them at that point, because they had such a good like funnel set up and people could buy the product right on the site. It was like a whole thing. So with the podcast, we'd make all these blogs that were related so that we ranked really high in Google, and we'd make like ebooks so people would give us their email addresses. It was like very strategic.
That's awesome.
And then some shows I've been on, what they're doing is more something to like retain their current customers, like keep their current people engaged. The emotional intelligence one, he's like a coach, so he has limited time that he can actually like do these meetings. And so he talks about it on the show. He's like, I want to coach people up so that they can like reach the level where they could actually hire me. And so if they listen to this, it should like give them all the basics that by the time they reach out to me, they're like a really qualified potential customer. And I'm like, so cool.
Fuck. Jeez, that man, I didn't know there's such depth to all this that was happening. I'm so naive. I just been
There's a
just
lot.
been filming a little rinky dinky show.
Well, and it was fun because I came from like this marketing background where I was doing a lot of content marketing. So then when I started to see podcasts popping up, I was kind of like, okay, like they could benefit from all these other things too. It really is a product. So like any product, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. But there's a lot to it. And I think people don't realize that. And they take on a show or they start a show and they do like a season and then they're like, oh my God, this sucks. Like it's so much work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like anything. It's like if you're a writer on the side and you like writing books, it's like you got to write. You got to write to make something happen. Yeah, I had some asshole the other day, like literally just, send me some negative shit in the comment section. And then I remember being like, I was just laughing because I clicked on his page and I'm like, dude, like you have like 2 videos up and it's like literally 4 or 5 views each. And I don't know, but like, I'm not trying to make this a numbers game. But I'm like, why are you talking like you're like Joe Rogan, ripping into my pod or whatever? But I don't know.
Like
I just
a good
laughed.
Moment though, your first hate.
Yeah, I removed it though because I just didn't like. I don't want to every time I hit the notification, I see that pop up first. So I'm like, I just.
And also, if you don't respond on YouTube, the comment just like stays on YouTube Studio forever.
I don't know. It's like if someone was talking to you and they like piece of broccoli in their teeth. You just keep looking at it, right? So I'm just like, how do I delete this? So I don't have to look at it, Like that's really what it is. But the dude, like, no, like if he thinks that, oh man, I got that guy or whatever. I'm like, no, dude, like you really didn't. And plus, like you're actually like a weirdo. So
it's
like,
a lot.
Yeah, like good luck. I never once have ever like wrote a hateful comment on any social media.
Never.
Like, like, it's just not. Like I'm just not built like that. I guess I'm like because it feels like the most cowardly thing to do.
I get it. I used to run, like this music website, music blog. I started that probably in 2014, I want to say. So I ran it for like 4 or 5 years out of Vancouver. And I started it because I had a broken foot and I was stuck on the couch. And I was just like one of those people that's like, I'm bored. I'm going to like start a project.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to make like a magazine. And I was really obsessed with like local music and bands at the time. And that didn't seem very like effective. So I ended up like finding Squarespace at the time and I like started this website and pretty quickly I would get on these like bands PR lists and stuff, so like all kinds of stuff would reach out to me to be like, can you come to this event, can you come review this band? So I'd get like writers anyway. So it was like this thing that started with me literally on the couch with like my foot in a cast and then I was getting to go to all these events and all these shows. And I remember we got a piece of like a hate comment one time and at the time it really rattled me because it was like, your website is built so poorly, like it doesn't make sense and this and that. And I remember having such a negative attitude about it. And then my friends were like, okay, but you have the website. Like, you're also doing the thing. People are always going to have opinions when you're trying to do something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm also 38. Like wasn't born yesterday. Like I didn't actually care. I was just more shocked at like how out of touch this person was. I'm like, it'd be different. But if someone was successful, they wouldn't be saying that either.
No, because they'd get how hard it is.
Yeah. Like, so I'm just kind of like realizing now, there's a whole section of just really out of touch doofuses that have probably truly never been punched in the face. So it's like, so I feel bad for them because there's no way they are actually happy. You know what I mean? Like there's no way. way. I mean, and if they are, then good for them. Then they're basically on the same level as someone who has a mental handicap, who doesn't understand reality. And I'm almost like, you can live in your little bubble, dude. But either way, like, I'm not gonna let you stain the pod, like, just because.
And if you're even like a baseline of happy, I just feel like you don't really have anything. And if you do have something to say, it can be like maybe constructive. But like, there's so much content. Like, if you don't like something, it's so easy to just like go find something else.
Well, the funny thing is, the guy was the one who took the time to watch my content. So,
like, thank you for the watch hours.
Yeah, like, so I don't know. That's what I mean by. It's like a fat guy calling another fat guy fat. You know what I mean? And like ripping in about whatever being unhealthy. And it's like, are you that out of touch? Did you not just look in the mirror? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or something,
Yeah, with podcasting too, it's also one where like everyone does it so differently.
Yeah.
Like the way I edit would be so different from someone else and so different from someone else. And I've worked with people who like went to school for audio engineering and like they'll know certain things and I'll know certain things, or maybe my strengths are more in one area and theirs are in a different area.
Well, take a look at movies. Like you got a Marvel movie filmed completely different from a what do you call it? the Godfather, whoever made that movie, like, you know, to a Quentin Tarantino movie, to like, it's, there's so much variety, and I don't know, just everyone thinks that they're an expert, but it's like you're commenting from the perspective that I didn't do it like the way you did it.
You also like can't be an expert of any of these things because like everything changes all the time, and like 1 second you're blowing up on a platform and then it's like shut down or something, you know? So like I feel like anything in this like creative space, you can never it's kind of hard as someone who works in the space because you can never really feel like you've like got it.
Yeah.
But you can also never feel like you could like critique someone else and be like, you don't have it either.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's all different.
That's why I find it so strange when people ask me for podcasting advice, because I'm like, well, first, very humbly, if you take a look at our views, we're not on the algorithm. Like, you have to go out of your way to find it or be a subscriber to even know it happens. And then, so I always humbly tell everyone, I'm like, there's no right or wrong way to do this thing. This is just the way I do it. And I'm kind of flattered that you're asking me for advice. But then it also shows you actually probably never watched all the content, because you would see my view count. I'm not Joe Rogan. Like, I mean, I had this one girl come in recently and she was just like, how'd you get 200,000 followers? I was like, I don't have 200,000 followers. I was like, are you like, then she's like, what? And then I'm like, and then turns out like she didn't even follow us.
Oh, what was she looking at?
She just heard about the podcast bar. She sees a bar and just assumes like I have this massive show.
Oh, I see.
And then she rolled in and was like super whatever disappointed. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, like, but she herself hasn't done anything. You know
when
I mean?
People ask for advice too, sometimes I'm like, are they just wondering like how you got started? Because to me, I'm like, it's not an option to like not try things.
Yeah.
Like I if I get an idea, I'm like, I have to try it. I don't really like look for like a bunch of advice first. I kind of just go.
I can relate totally. We actually fucked up badly on that one, because we like some people I people met me maybe a few years ago who reconnected with me recently are like, oh man, like did you take some time and do a business school study to start the business? And I'm like, to be honest with you, I just put one foot in front of the other and just kind of winged it, you know? Like, I remember like when we were first getting ready to do this, it was as simple as literally going to Google, how do you start a business? It's like, go get incorporated. What does that mean? And it's
that's like most entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I work with like tons of startups in marketing, and most of them are people who they just did it.
We just did it. And yeah, there was a lot of fumbling football along the way. I remember we walked in our first bank with like, we would like to get a business loan. They're like, okay, like, where's your business plan? We're like,
I don't even know what that is.
And then we're like, help run.
A plan.
Yeah. And then it's like, then we thought we had one. And then all of a sudden my one buddy finally like kind of was like, anyway, the story didn't happen exactly the way I just told it, but that's the gist of how it went down. Okay. Like, that was the gist of how it went down. The thing is, we didn't go to actual bank. We were talking to a guy who worked at a bank. Okay. But either way, but that's how innocent the start was. And like, I do have a degree, if you will, so I'm smart in other things, but I remember my one buddy's like, no, man, like, you need a formal, like, you're trying to ask someone to lend you like fucking $500,000. So it's like, you need this to make sense. You need to be able to project it. Like, and then we discovered all of a sudden this program called Live Plan, which literally does business plans. And then from there, we tapped into it with a restaurant model. And thankfully restaurants have been done so many times. So that was pretty simple and put forward. Then we had to figure out what was actually our menu. So then that's when we started working with like asking chefs to join. It was like the process was a whole year worth of between finding a contract, commercial realtor to find the location and then even there, it was like, there was just, that's why when most people ask me now, because it seems like it was magic that this thing formed. I'm like, no, man, it's because most of you guys just work some job and then you party on the weekend. And I'm not knocking on this, but I'm saying you're just doing what 90% of people do anyway. Like we're like we, as in like yourself, like we're out here like creating shit, you know?
You just have to do it. I have people ask me all the time. They're just like, how do you have time? Like, if you're working a full-time job and freelancing and doing YouTube. And to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, but that's like all I do.
like
that's what I like to do with my time. It's fun to me.
There you go. And like, these people probably can't wrap their head because, you know, as an example, this kind of, I don't know if this actually ties in what we're talking about. I'm formulating my thought process in real time here, but it's a lot like one person might take 5 minutes to get ready in the morning. Okay. And then someone else takes a whole fucking hour.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, what'd you do in that whole hour? Like, and you realize they just have all these quirks. Like, they have to comb their hair this way, then they have to brush their teeth certain way, like just, and then next thing you know, they're like, man, like I have no time. I'm like, well, it's because you have so many habits that are rooted in wasted time over the course of the entire duration of the day, that when you compound the time mixed in with that, you need to sleep 10 hours. Like, like I sleep maybe 4 or 5. Like, it sucks. Like, don't get me wrong, just because I'm busy. When they start to tally up all the actual quirky behavior they have when no one's looking, that actually takes up 4 or 5 hours. Like, then they literally had no time for nothing else. And it's like I've learned to, like, through this process, like we really just target what needs to get done as fast as we can get it done, and that's it. Like I basically throw out all routine now out the window that used to take up too much time, that made no sense. Something, if that kind of makes sense.
It does make sense. Something we talk a lot about on that emotional intelligence podcast is actually, like, there's 4 personality types that system uses, and one of them is a personality type that's really driven by, like, results and is really triggered by, like, time. And that's the one I am. And it's like your main driver is to, like, just, like, get a result, like, get it done, get the plan going, get it moving. There's other ones where they're triggered more by kind of like their credibility or how other people feel about them, or like clarity. But I'm very much the one that's just like, I just need to, like, get a result, like, try it, and then I'll, like, readjust. And my biggest thing is my time. So I need to feel like my time is, like, being used
efficiently, effectively, and efficiently.
Totally. And if it's not, then I feel pretty guilty. So I try to, like, balance it a little bit, but not the best.
But even that is subjective though, right?
Completely. I would be interested for you to give a couple of those episodes a listen and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Because I would also agree, but the part of it that is subjective is if you actually have emotional intelligence and you're, like, building it, then you'll understand how other people feel. So you'll be able to, like, act and behave in different ways. But at the end of the day, there's still, like, certain things that are kind of rooted to us. And I at least find a lot of them to be true. And one of the ones with, like, the type I am is we have this convincing bias. And so it's like I need people to convince me. And I think that's part of why I like interviewing and talking to people, because I'm like, tell me more, tell me more. I need it to make sense to me.
Okay. I don't know which type I would be. I do remember when I was in oil and gas, because one of the things I did like about working for a big energy company was they had a lot of these team building event type things, because they so I remember like this psychology group. But anyway, there was this group that came in. They gave you these 4 colors, I remember. And there was like yellow, blue, green, red, but each one had 3 attributes, so totaling 12. Okay. But one was like detail oriented, needs to be micromanaged. I don't know, as an example, but I remember seeing my formation come, and it was interesting because after that, and I showed it to my boss at the time, like, she actually knew better how to use me. Yeah. And it was like very effective. Yeah. So like, so I don't know, maybe that wasn't an emotional intelligence quiz or whatever, maybe. But
that's kind of the point too, is it's more like to just, like, make it easier and make it so you can, like, go home after the workday and not be, like, so stressed out. Like, you can just be like, nope, I get why, like, these things bothered me, and I can kind of, like, manage it. Or people know how to just, like, avoid it. Yeah. Which I think is kind of interesting. But it is like, you do need to, like, work on it and kind of think about it.
Figure out, like, who you are, and only by fumbling through life. It's kind of like a chessboard. It's like I don't know if you play chess, but do you play chess?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, I like chess. I wouldn't say I'm great or nothing, but I do like playing it. But it's like, it's almost like you're born and you're just trying to figure out, like, am I a rook? Am I a queen? Am I a pawn? Because they each do different things. It's like you just kind of have to fumble around. But most people, they just stay as pawns because they just don't take any risks to fumble around and discover themselves. And they just kind of make peace with, like, hey, I'm not up here for joy and happiness and experiences, but I'm not down here either. I'm right here. And but I see that thinking too, because you're never down here.
It's safe,
so
right?
It's safe, right?
And also, a lot of people grew up, I think, with families that, like, had certain expectations. I don't know. I was like a kid that was like, I want to try this activity and this activity and this. And, like, don't get me wrong, my family had its faults also, but, like, I was always made to feel like I could try a lot of things and that I also didn't need to be good at them. But I feel like a lot of people do grow up feeling like they need to be genuinely good at things. And I still don't feel like that. There's the part of me that wants to be perfect at things and wants things to go really well. There's a bigger part of me that's like, I'm a human. It's like more fun to just like try a bunch of stuff.
Okay, but you actually have a joy when you try these random activities?
Totally.
Okay, because like me, I literally like 6 things that I've discovered like being alive 38 years now. Like I realize I'm like, wow, like I like 6 things primarily that like pique my interest, that get me super excited. And it's literally like I love working out, I love mixed martial arts, I love comedy, I love science fiction, I love punk rock music, like that kind of genre. I love like anything to do with warrior shit. Like I like seeing a knife, I like seeing a spear, I like seeing a gun. I don't know what it is. Like I just anything outside of that realm, I can still enjoy it, but instead of a 10 out of 10, it's like an 8 and a 7 and a 6, right?
I feel like that's a lot of things though.
There's
a lot of things you can do in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Each category has a subcategory within that realm. But as an example, like we talked about Harry Potter 2 seconds ago, and I just realized why I don't like. Well, off the air we talked about Harry Potter, and we seem to bring up Harry Potter quite a bit on this podcast. But I just remember like it's because there's no alpha males in that show. Like everyone's kind of nerdy, right? I'm like where's the Jack dude? Like
kind of like no character development at all.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, I've never watched a Harry Potter from start to finish, but I've seen enough clips, and it's just so inundated in society. But I remember I'm like, well, that's why I like Game of Thrones. That's why I like even Star Wars. That's why I don't know. I just like Marvel movies, like because I can picture like a commanding superhero presence guy rolling in to like save the day, and that person's the pinnacle of human achievement because he puts in all the work to develop himself physically, mentally. But as an example, that's just what I like. So if tomorrow you were like, hey, Shawn, why don't you try knitting? And I'm being serious. I'd be like, I can't get into this. Like I can't even read. But for you, it sounds like you can dive into numerous hobbies and actually have a level of natural interest and joy out of it.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's not a lot of things that I would be like, well, there are a lot of things I like, but it wouldn't be like if I went and tried probably like some of the stuff you like, I might not be like, this is my favorite thing ever. But I think it's so interesting to me that just like we're these weird little humans on this planet. We have all this stuff we can try.
Yeah.
And I also really like fitness. Like that's a big one for me, is like wanting to try different like classes and dances and types of things. And so that's like my main driver. But then I try to get myself to try out other things because I feel like it's good for you. And it's good to be bad at things. And I think that's like very humbling and it's important.
Yeah. Well, the things I like, I'm always bad at them technically, right? Like I love training, but I'm never going to be the strongest guy in the gym. Like every day I can walk in and next I'm like, yep, there's another big dog. And, but it's almost like, if we were video game characters, it's almost like Morgan's built with 100 different lanes. And then within each lane, she could hit 8 is a max joy. 0's like that, like don't like. Shawn has 50 choices, but maybe the 30 of them can hit level 12, and then, it's like we're all built so diversely different, it's very fascinating too. Like a side of me does love stuff. Like I said earlier, like I love biographies because I do enjoy the like trying to picture vicariously what it's like to be someone else.
That's so interesting.
Well, that's why I have the mushroom here, right? Like it's like I did loads of psychedelics, and it was like this thing made me realize we are all one thing in a way, like the consciousness aspect anyway. And then but when I try all these random activities, like I'm like I either don't like it or I like it, or it has something to do with the thing I just mentioned earlier about like alpha male stuff. Like it's like it
are
doesn't
you like
tie
a
into
perfectionist?
I don't know. Like I do have some OCD for sure. But
perfectionist is usually like you don't feel like you can kind of do anything perfect. I feel like that's something that holds people back, is they feel like they need to genuinely be like kind of good at something to enjoy it. And I can get that because I am kind of like that.
I'm actually I would take a step. I can be a bit of a prick, unfortunately, because I'm actually super competitive. Like I like to win, and I'm growing up, I was a very bad sore loser. It doesn't like if we finally got into something where it's like, okay, we're competing now, like as in who's better. I just want to win. Like
did you do sports growing up?
Oh yeah.
What did you do?
Oh, like I did karate, I did volleyball, basketball, soccer, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, weightlifting. I didn't play hockey, unfortunately. Dad couldn't afford it, but I can skate. I snowboarded, ski. Yeah, I'm super physically, I get after it. I don't know what it is. I'm definitely competitive. I don't like to lose. I don't want to lose. And even when I lose, my brain's just more thinking like, how do I win next time? Or like, oh, you didn't
I'd
really
say that's
win.
pretty perfectionist-y.
Okay, but
it's like not a bad thing. That's just like makes sense why maybe you like certain things more than others.
Uh-huh.
I'm like that in some areas too. I also grew up like a jock. I was a competitive swimmer.
Yeah.
I also was like a competitive high jumper. But I did a lot of solo sports, so a lot of like the responsibility to do well was on me, and I felt really comfortable with that because I was like, okay, like I am dependent on me. And then I was terrible at team sports because I would get like too annoyed if either like I couldn't find my place or if like people weren't doing it the way I wanted, you know?
Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm a perfectionist, but because I definitely the same. I often fought with teammates, unfortunately. But it's because I can.
So different, yeah.
Well, it was also for me. I can just tell they weren't trying. I'm like, how are we all supposed to win when you get this one guy who's not giving a fuck at all?
And when you've done like solo sports too, I feel like you're so used to it being on you. And like even now, I still swim. Like I'm still on like a team and stuff. But I'm trying to put myself in some activities now that are like there isn't a way to do it right.
More mellow.
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad. It's so hard. I'm trying to learn jazz dance right now. And I do ballet where there's like a way to do it. I only started this like all a few years ago. But with jazz, like there's not a way to do it. And it's one of those events where it's kind of like the instructor's like, go for it. Just have fun. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do I have fun?
Oh man. Yeah.
In which way?
Yeah, I couldn't dive into like new hobbies like that. I'm either down with something or not. But when I'm down with something, I get pretty obsessed. Yeah, like well, even this business, like trust me, like my brain is thinking 24/7 how to make this the coolest brand ever, and
That's so
like
fun.
just pop off.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say the emotional intelligence. One thing I really like, I do enjoy that entire genre of understanding because I think that that's more important than knowing stuff. Because most people can't get stuff done because their emotional intelligence is what gets in the way. As in, I don't know, not being able to hone in and control your ego or your emotions, or like, and I'm guilty of that too. Like there's I've come a long way, I've matured a lot, and like hence business owner and this and that. But there's still days where, holy fuck, like something will just completely get me into a primitive state. And then an hour later, when I'm finally out of that emotional state, and I'm like, what the fuck was like all that progress I had? Like, throw it out the window. I went back to square one by getting so fucking angry and like, but it happens, and I don't know. It just shows like I'm like, well, this is going to be a forever rest of my life project to hone in and understand myself, control my anxieties, my own emotions, and things like that. It's but yeah, but I don't know. But with you studying emotional intelligence, you seem pretty like calm and put together and everything.
I hear that a lot. Yeah, it's all up here. It's interesting because like we're emotional creatures who think. We're not thinkers who emote, like everything we're doing all day long is
Can you say that last thing again?
We're emotional creatures who think.
Emotional creatures who
not
think.
like thinkers who emote. Like we are driven by our emotions all day long. And if we're thinking in there, that's great. Like if we're actually rationally thinking, that's like a good thing. But intelligence, like IQ, is biological, like it's kind of set at a certain point.
Oh, is it actually? Like,
yeah, you can kind of like get a certain amount of intelligence.
Is it kind of like the body? Kind of like I'm gonna be 5. I'm 5'11" 3/4, by the way. With shoes, I'm 6 feet. So I tell people I'm 6 feet because most of the time I'm wearing shoes. There's the logic. But it's kind of like I'm 6 feet. I'm never going to get bigger. So my genetic was always to just hit 6 feet.
And it's like a field where I think there's like a lot of differing opinions, but like traditional IQ is like you have an IQ, whereas EQ, emotional intelligence, is like something you can actually grow and you can actually expand upon. And I think it's like it really is like a lifelong thing. And knowing it doesn't make you this perfect person, and understanding it in a lot of ways, it actually just makes you able to communicate better, like how you're behaving.
Yeah.
And through those days where you're like, wow, like the last few days I was being so not myself, and like, what the fuck was that? Then you can kind of look back and be like, you know what? It actually was probably like started here, and maybe I can like see where that really bothered me. But like, you're still going to be bothered because you're an emotional creature. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I like, it's not, as an example, I growing up I had a bad temper. And then as I gotten older, the EQ kicked in because I went through enough bad temper episodes as a child and early teenager where I was like, why do I keep getting so mad? Like whenever I don't know, as an example, like my brother took my toy or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, but then I started realizing I'm like, it's like, this is when, like, you know, I had some EQ growth, I suppose. Whereas I was watching Star Wars, and I remember being like, oh, fear leads to the dark side. And I was like, somehow this all relates to me being scared of dying.
Whoa.
Yeah, like every single temper tantrum moment has something to do with me being afraid that somehow this will lead to my death. And then I remember cluing in on that. And then that was the first time, that was the beginning of slowly controlling that temper. But now I've realized, like there's some people that will say, like, oh, Shawn's like a great dude who's super mature, and I can't see him snapping or whatever. And then there's other people like, oh, are you fucking serious? That guy snaps all the time. But then I'm starting realizing the people who say that is because we're engaged in activities still to this day that activate my fear of death.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just
biological. Like, our brain doesn't know the difference between being stressed out about like a lion and being stressed out because like you got an email that you don't like.
Oh yeah,
like, you know?
Exactly.
You get the same like fight or flight reaction. It's just we don't really have a good outlet, you know? Like, we're not like fighting, we're not battling, we're not running away, we're like sitting in these like societies.
And also, we haven't either put ourselves through the experience yet to develop the EQ for that scenario, right? We're talking kind of cryptic, but if I had to use a specific example, it's okay. When I was younger, if my brother pushed me or something, but my brother and I got along real well, by the way. I don't know why I keep bringing him up like that, but okay, say if someone pushed me, I would be like, get all super angry or whatever. It's because in my brain I'm thinking, oh my god, I'm small, he pushed me. Next thing you know, he's gonna kick me in the face. Like, maybe there's deep rooted DNA for fear of death, because maybe in all our genetic lineage there has been loads of death done from fighting or something, and it's skewed in the genes. Who knows? But what I'm trying to say is, like, then as I got more jacked and learned how to fight, then all of a sudden that wasn't the thing that triggered my temper anymore in that realm. But then it's like, fast forward, it's like, as an example, I remember, like, me and my partner, you know, I'm gonna be tiptoeing around the subject a bit here, but you know, there was a financial thing that we both overlooked, that, you know, we starting a business, we just didn't know. And all of a sudden, you know, we get slapped with the thing, and then it was like, I just remember being like, again, I got mad because my fear was, again, death, right? It's like, this is going to equal to the business failing, equal me going bankrupt, equal me fucking like being on the street, equal me. Like, it's so extreme how my brain like triggered into that extreme thought process, that spiraling thought process. But now, as the months have gone on and we tackled that first problem, and then and the other problems, like, we didn't necessarily tackle it, but we were able to at least put it on the side and not have it be lingering over our head. The other people we're interacting with know, like, we reached a deal, if you will. and it's like, then now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, like, the anxiety is lowering. It's like, so I'm like, okay, like, if you throw the same scenario where I snapped over that, now I can't, because now I developed another experience. So I feel like the most high EQ people, they're the most life experienced people. You know, so it's like, you kind of have to just do a bunch of shit, fail a bunch, fumble around a bunch, try not to make too much of a colossal asshole out of yourself, and then keep getting those tools to like to progress forward. Really, there's really no answer.
That's kind of like a driver too to me, just wanting to try so many things. I had this moment in university, and it's like so silly now, but I didn't get into the sorority that I was like really cocky about, because I like
in UFC or no, wait, no, sorry,
no, I went to SFU in Vancouver. I don't know which way I'm pointing. But they like didn't have that, and then they like brought one in when I was in my fourth year, and I kind of like went to the meet and greets, and I was like, well, I already have friends, so I'm just like looking to like try something new, and like I obviously didn't get in because I was being such a cocky jerk. But that was kind of the first time I was like really rejected, and I remember being like kind of like, oh, this is good for me, like I should probably get rejected for more things. And then I've kind of tried to pursue that in like small ways. Well, because I knew
that's so odd that you embrace the ego beating, because most people would be
right away.
Okay, go on.
But I didn't like the way it made me feel, like that it was so novel. Like, I've always I think I really like to be in control of how I feel. And so to me, I was like, how can I kind of like make myself more uncomfortable? Because clearly I'm not like making myself uncomfortable enough if this is like rattling me, and it's such a small thing that I didn't care that much about. And now I'm at the point where like when I try things, and if I'm like bad at it or if I get rejected, it's just kind of like funny, or it's just like, okay.
I I right now, my main struggle with that is I don't mind failing, and I said I'm competitive, which I am, but look, if someone's gonna beat me at something that they clearly beat me at,
totally,
like I'm not, I'm just more like, that sucks. Like it's just like it's not. It meant something for me to try to attempt to win, because again, it leading to a death thing. It's like, okay, in theory, then this competition was a duel to the death. Then I would have died by now, and so would be taking all my belongings. I don't know why my brain thinks so crazy like that. Maybe it's in the genes, but my biggest struggle right now, and I still don't have an answer for it, and my EQ is this is the latest hurdle for me, is like dealing with. I do have to remain cryptic on this one, but when what you're pursuing, whether it's a hobby or whatever, it has massive effects on other people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like that's when, but you're stuck doing it. So, as an example, this isn't me right now, but say I became the president of. Fuck, I've botched this. I'm the Prime Minister of Canada, or whatever. President of Canada. Wait a minute. But then it's like, okay, I've never been a president. Now I'm president. It's like, do we go to war or not? It's like I'm sitting here like this next decision isn't about me. Like we're about to send either millions of people to their death or to their fucking victory, and then I'm sitting there like, but you have to make a decision. You can't just sit there, because otherwise the enemy's gonna come invade. And then when I think about stuff like that, it's like those ones I just don't have an answer for, because I'm like I'm still not in the I didn't make the choice yet per se. I'm still rolling around figuring things out, but it's like those people are the real heroes, I feel like, because it's not that Joe Biden's this great guy or whatever fuck, but it's like if he actually is a human being, or like all of our leaders are human beings, then we got to take a step back, because it's not like if they are truly good human beings or human beings, those are not easy decisions. Like the amount of emotions they're taking on is nothing that you and I can think about. Like, oh my God, I couldn't pay the bill and I lost my house. How about you just send 1,000 fucking people to their death? Like, and it's like, there's no way like that you can, that without some strong EQ, you're going to be able to get through that without having a complete nervous breakdown. Yeah. That's why I believe half of them aren't real, and I think they're aliens. Because I'm like, sometimes like, because it's so callous in the way they make these big decisions, like,
they might
seems
don't
like
even have that part of their brain, the empathy
maybe
part, but
maybe they're sociopaths.
I feel like that means that you're like really thinking of people outside of yourself. A lot of the stuff I'm doing, it's very about me. It's very much like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm kind of doing this. It doesn't affect a lot of people, but I agree. Like, if it starts to affect people, I think that's where like really knowing those people too, and like you're having the trust is so important.
Yeah.
But it's like we all go through those phases. Like I had some stuff happen over the summer, and it was like weeks and weeks of me acting like differently, and you kind of don't catch yourself. And then it all catches up to you, and you realize you're like, whoa, like what have I been doing? And so having people around you that can also have their EQ high enough to like call you out and kind of be like, hey, you seem like you're behaving really different in these ways. Like, how can I support? Or they just know. But like, that's where it gets kind of hard.
It is absolutely hard. Like, because I don't have people in my life that can give me advice on this. They've never been entrepreneurs. Like, I'm the first entrepreneur in my family in the last like 2 generations here.
Yeah.
The rest just work for corporations, and they've taken risk here and there, but I don't know. But sometimes I do have to. I realize I'm like, I don't have time to get too dialed into wondering all the crazy like outcomes, and like I'm literally in the battle right now.
Yeah.
All I got focus is with every ounce of my control. Like, what can I do to get through the battle and to win, and know like I'm going to be in this for a while. So unfortunately, these people, unless they have some kind of advice or contribution, I have to be a bit cold and like shove their relation to the situation, like as in if I was a world leader. Like, it's like, okay, like there's a lot of people in Gaza about to get bombed. It's like we're talking about like dead children, but I still got to make a move. So I have to do this and not think about these children. Like, I have to, for a moment, I have to objectify them, because otherwise I can't make a move. I'm paralyzed by over feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like and then that EQ box, I feel like, has developed another lens to it, if you will. Like, you know, so I mean, the whole EQ thing, it's very fascinating to me, because like without that, you can't even make a simple decision, let alone a complex one.
No,
so.
Or you're making one based on a reaction. Like, it's not actually a decision at that point. That's interesting you say too that you're like one of the first entrepreneurs. Like, in my family, I'd be one of the first generations of like women to have a career.
Yeah.
And so that's like been an interesting thing, because it's like there actually isn't someone I could talk to about like, how do you age as like a woman in the workplace, and like how do you stay like, because
or doing creative things like you, like they're more like, what are you doing, Morgan? Like, how does this make a living? You know, and like in a weird way, you're also like, I'm also figuring out how far this can go. This is a new territory, you know.
Yeah,
like who would have heard of YouTube, work. You know, as a career path? Like they'd be like, what the fuck's a YouTube? Like 10, 20 years ago, you know.
And to me, I'm like, you just have to have enough like belief in yourself that like you'll make it work. And lots of things won't work, but to me, I'm like, I can bet on myself. Like I know, figure something like out.
I do use heavy amounts of manifestation and law of attraction. This is literally how this bar formed. Like I remember picturing it, and then it came pretty close to the way I pictured. Like I was very eerie. I was like, wow. Cool. And then, but I've done that my whole life with things I dialed in on. So law of attraction is real, people. Like it's just if you know how to use it, and but trust me, it goes both ways. Because you when you start getting a negative loop, you start manifesting like the negative shit, and that's the hardest battle, because half the time negativity, it comes through logical thinking. You know, it's like the kid being like, I'm gonna make the NBA. Okay, it's a 0.00001% of the population that makes the NBA. So off of that, you're saying you believe in yourself so much, and you're putting in the hours, and you let your results to show that you're gonna somehow be the starting point guard in the LA Lakers. Like it's like, and the kid's like sitting there like, oh, now the negative thinking's coming. It's like, that's the real battle. And all the champs have explained, like at a young age, they learned to like block that all out and just believe that, you know, like I'm going to make it. And and how I also know is because I'm putting in 15 hours a day of work. Like I'm shooting basketballs like 15 hours a day and just stopping for the other 3 to eat and sleep. And then I'm doing it again. Like, you know, so I feel like as long as you're doing that in your own realm, I believe that success will come. And, you know, but still fighting those negative thought processes is a 24/7 battle, you know?
It's easier to know, like, once you figure out why they're happening. Like for me to know, like, okay, like a trigger of mine is time. So if I feel like my time was wasted, or like my time's like not being used well, I can kind of understand why I'll be in a bad mood, for example. And then at least that helps me kind of be like, okay, I'm like human. This thing happened. How can I like, but there's actual science with like the abundance and the scarcity mindset. And I mean, a lot of it's like, it's obviously a privilege to be able to have the abundance mindset, but when people aren't able to like get enough food, or like they have to focus on like one small thing, it actually like makes your brain function reduced.
Yeah, it's true. If you don't actually have the means, but it's almost like you have to. It's a paradox. I notice a lot of things are paradoxes. Like it's not as it appears. So, but I just realized you might feel guilt for being like, oh, the abundance mindset. Because I know I felt that. I'm like, why would I keep trying to chase abundance when so many people don't have anything? But then I'm like, but that's how it works. You have to make that plunge and decide, I'm going to feel abundance.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then you're not caring about other people. It's like, then God has to take care of them. Like I'm focused on this and because this is what it takes. So don't like, unless you have someone who has a misfortune directly in front of my face that I can either help or make the choice not to, I have to dial all in on this. And I have results to show, like this bar, because it was kind of selfish of me and my partner when we dove into making this thing. Like we put hours into this thing. We brushed off friends and this and that, but now we got it. Yeah. And they wonder like, how did this happen? It's like, well, that's what it takes, but in all areas of life. So it's a paradox. But the more successful you get, then you can help other people.
Oh yeah, and I hope it doesn't come across that way. I mean, it more just the research was able to come out of that, but. Like, even if you're like going through something where it's like something that's taking up so much of your space emotionally, like I feel like you can see it. Like if I look at photos of me when I know I was like having a really hard time, you can like see it. Like my face looks different. I like just don't look happy. And like also other things start to go wrong. Suddenly like other things are slipping. Like you're losing like other areas of your life too. Like it is a lot of like focus and mindset, and like our brain is real, like it's a real thing. So
yeah no, it is
like it's not there.
It's strange. Like I don't know, it's like I write down my little mission statements, if you will. There's like do you know Stephen Covey is?
No.
What about
I feel like our the people we watch are probably like
I don't know, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie. He wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, How to Win Friends and Influence People. No, he didn't do the 7 Habits. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. But I remember reading that book, and then and I'm doing it. So like it's like like but that entire realm of self help, it is I lost track of what I was trying to say. I was juggling 3 different thoughts. I was trying to merge it into one here. But all I know, okay, those are awesome books. I read them, but I just know it. Things are paradoxical, like in life. Like what seems like, as an example, have you ever been super good to someone who had a misfortune, like maybe a homeless person? Like it's like, hey, like he gave him $20, and then the reaction is, do you have more? You kind of know what I mean? You're all of a sudden like, oh, like, like I didn't understand. It's a paradox. By doing the good thing, you create a more of a worse thing. Like, as another example, it's like, I don't know, the U.S. took out, so there's a crazy random one, but took out Saddam Hussein, and all of a sudden now you got like 20 subgroups of terrorist groups like that formed, right? It's like you thought you did a good thing. The cruel reality of, I'm just whipping things out, like slavery. When they ended slavery, it was like a lot of slaves all of a sudden were like, well, now what? Like, I actually have no skills, and now I don't even have a routine. And then they were actually more. They were like destitute. Like I started seeing these paradoxes in things. So then I started realizing it's like, just know, like when you think you're doing something good, just take the entire reward out of it, because just know it's a paradox. You're just in the moment doing something, but just know it's like, But the paradox again for the abundance mindset, as it, looping back around to the subject of that, it's like, you have to just choose you. It has to be kind of somewhat selfish, and you have to go all in on it. But that's later. You can do good,
totally.
when you're
I
rich
see what
guy.
you mean. It's kind of like you need to.
For every philanthropist who's out there, he was a hardcore selfish motherfucker at one point to get to where he got.
It's really hard to do a lot of good things when you're in like a really negative space, right? And like it's even hard to just be like a good friend, a good partner, if like you're not in a good place, right? That's like the cliche, like you shouldn't get into a relationship until you like really love yourself, it's true. But I don't think that's selfish. I think that that's actually good, and if more people like did that and made sure that they were really feeling good, I think that helps more people than trying to kind of like help people when you really don't have a whole lot in you.
And it's definitely a tricky art. It's like, it is, you are surfing a wave. That's what I noticed with life.
Totally. And it depends on your responsibilities too, right? Like, I'm saying this from the position of someone who's like dating a boyfriend and like doesn't have kids, and like, like my responsibilities are pretty low.
Hey, but good for you. But that's the paradox. If you're in your situation, you should be taking advantage of that. What are you supposed to be like, oh man, I may as well just have 1 meal a day because 10 other people can't eat, and I shouldn't chase my dreams. A lot of people don't get a chance. Like, it's like, no, like you're in this situation, just like the person who has the kids and all these responsibilities. They get the joy of being a mother or father or whatever. It's like I don't know. Life really is what you make of it. But it's also what you make of it as far as what your inner self actually agrees with, because otherwise you can justify anything and go around killing people.
And being able to like know your inner self is so validating. I feel like that's the biggest part of EQ that I like, is being like, you know what, like I am okay to feel this way. I could behave differently. But like,
when would you say you discover, like for me, the short, we're gonna wind this down, by the way. We've been solid podcast. By the way, Morgan, I should come on again. We should do this again, and or maybe I can collab with some of the pods you've been on here. Mutual collabing benefits everyone. But I was gonna ask, like, real quickly, for me, I remember 19. I was 19. I became this guy you see now, and then I kept evolving it more. But prior to that, I was lost. Like, I had so many different identities and fads and phases. I remember 19. I remember being like, I know who I am now. Like I know. As in on the chessboard, I'm like, I realize I'm a rook. I'm not a queen. I'm not a king. I'm a rook, but the rook that aspires to be a queen. So like, I'm aiming to grow my qualities because it's within range. I'm not quite the horse, because the horse does L's, and like I can't do that. I literally haven't begin to do that, but I can mold, so I can, instead of just going one direction like the queen, I can start to move. If you get the analogy, right?
I totally get it.
Yeah. So like, what age did you
I was probably 25.
25. Okay.
And I remember feeling like my brain like unlocked, And all of the sudden, and I was someone too who I'd say I was like a pretty angry person growing up. And all of a sudden it felt like this like step was added in between like emotion and reaction where there was actually like thought.
Yeah.
And that was not there before.
Yeah.
And it felt like day and night. It was like, oh, I think it was the rest of my brain finished forming. And suddenly I was like, oh, I can think before I react. And it felt like all of a sudden so much more control over my life, so much more possibility.
Yeah. And you know what's the scary part though? Is like that little moment you had, the reality is actually like I've come to realize there's unlimited of those. You just gotta keep unlocking it.
It does feel like I'm like going through like constant puberty at this point.
Yeah. And by just realize like the human, like we are barely tapping into our full, from what I understand, the science and theories is that we're supposed to be, the brain's so powerful we can actually start to like literally be like superhumans, like metahumans, where we like
that's cool.
blend, like levitate, and like we're like what was it like the science, like the old saying, like we're only using, the brain's only been discovered to be using like 15% of it or whatever, and we've already done all this. So I don't know, it's like it like I do believe that, and I mean but obviously I'm obviously still, it's like every time I level up I'm back to square one at a different level, you know. So
totally,
so it's like you know it is kind of I don't want to use the word frustrating, but it's like it's hard to accept that there's no end to the cycle and you're supposed to just enjoy the journey or whatever, because like because you know, you're right, I'm a perfectionist. I would rather see the like what's the goal, like when's the end of the game. I can't just keep playing like the way I'm playing a 10-minute basketball game versus I was playing a 50-minute basketball game. I need to know when I sprint and when I jog, you know. Like but
I think the thing I look forward to is like the idea of being able to actually say I have wisdom.
Yeah.
And be able to actually, like, I'd like to think that when I'm twice the age I am now, that I'll be able to think, like, you know what, like, I can actually give some good, maybe advice or recommendations, or just, like, even just ways of thinking about things. I don't feel like I can do that quite right now, but I can think a lot about it. I can talk a lot about it. It's interesting.
You seem like, you're definitely articulate, and I get what you're saying. And the fact that you understood some of my analogies, I would like to think those are siding on the side of wisdom versus like obscure words coming out of my mouth, you know. I'm confident what I said makes sense, and it's a strong observation I made on things. No, I think I definitely think you're more wise than you let on. Anyway, you know, you brought up emotional intelligence. Who studies that? You know, as a hobby. You know,
I'm like, it's so fun, everybody.
most people are what? Fuck this! Like literally losing their temper as they're like, cool. What?
If you don't want all that on my YouTube, I don't talk about that. It's very lighthearted.
yeah. Her YouTube's it's like a lot of fashion and a hobby video blogging and travels. And,
it's really just like lifestyle. Really, like I used to be really lonely when I lived in this like one town for my first job, and I'd watch people's vlogs to just like feel like I had people around. So I'm just trying to create that for people. You can put it on, just listen, hang out. That's the vibe.
Okay.
That's the vibe there. It doesn't go deep because that's all the other things.
Yeah. Like this conversation. This deep conversation.
From other places.
Okay, Morgan. Yeah, I'm gonna plug as much as I can on the show notes there that you want to share as well. If you want to share everything, then fuck yeah, we'll put links up the wazoo on there. But Morgan, great conversation here. Definitely enjoyed this, and I doubt this will be the last time you're on the pod, and hopefully I jump on some of the pods you do and stuff. And
thanks for having me on. I know this is like what happens when two interviewers get in a room. We just like can't stop. But so fun. I'm really excited to see what you do with the business and the podcast. I think it's such a cool idea. And like at the end of the day, you just like took such a cool risk that that's it. Sweet. I think that's great.
Perfect. And people support follow Kaks Bar and Podcast on all socials at Kaks Bar Podcast, and come on down to the bar, 1006 First Street, Southeast Calgary, Alberta.
Get the brownie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the brownie, the food. We have great food. All right, come on down. Okay, bye everyone.